Our hen house is a squawking house. Our hen house is their hen house. Our hen house, ooh, it's a funky fresh house. Our hen house is your hen house.
Hello and welcome to Our Hen House, a place to find our way to change the world for animals. Joining us today will be Jena Hauffman, president of the Mayor's Alliance for New York City's Animals, who will be filling us in on the present state of homeless animals here in the Big Apple.
Then we'll be joined by Gena Hamshaw, author of Choosing Raw, which is hot off the presses. Jenna knows how to make food that is delicious, healthy, and indulgent enough to satisfy, which is sometimes, but not always, raw. She'll be demonstrating one of her incredible recipes right here today, which is good because I'm hungry. You can also find Jenna at her really popular blog by the same name, Choosing Raw, choosingraw.com.
Choosingraw.com. It smells like cilantro around here.
I'm hoping. I love me some cilantro.
And indeed, we do have two powerhouse women here today who are going to knock your socks off. So please pull up some hay. Let's get squawking. Hello, Marianne. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm not doing quite as well as Frosty the Snow Goat.
Oh my God. Frosty the Snow Goat. A few weeks ago, we showed this video of Frosty, who is a darling goat from Edgar's Mission Farm Sanctuary in Australia, and we got flooded with emails and comments on our Facebook page.
He was rescued, and he had a disability when he was rescued. It's just a tiny little thing, and he had to use a wheelchair, and he was doing really well using his wheelchair, but we have an update.
Well, we thought we would just give the little update, but one of our cameramen became obsessed with Frosty and went home and was like, following Frosty's story and told us about this video.
You should talk about other people getting obsessed.
Yeah, exactly.
We weren't going to show the whole video because we were like, it's not the Frosty show.
Oh, but it is.
But it is.
Wait until you see this video. Let's just take a look at how Frosty is doing.
Hi, my name is Pam Ahern, and this adorable little guy you probably know is Frosty the Snow Goat. He arrived here about 4 weeks ago in a very sad and sorry state. Unable to stand or even walk about, things were looking pretty grim. In fact, we didn't even know if he was going to make it. But nobody told Frosty that. Frosty was frustrated by his immobility, so dear little Leon Trotsky kindly lent him his mobility cart. And not only did Frosty's spirits and confidence soar, so too did his strength and determination. As each day rolled on, and he rolled along with it, his zest for life and desire to explore grew and grew. It wasn't long before the brave and resilient Frosty graduated from his cart, and at first he was only able to stand on his own for short periods of time. But yet again he persevered, and now the brightest moment in our day comes each morning when Frosty happily trots unaided down our kindness trail, excited and eager for a day filled with fun and adventure with his friends. Next time you're feeling down and it seems as though you are facing the impossible, think of dear little Frosty, who has overcome what looked to be insurmountable odds, and he has done it all the while with the happiest of dispositions. It just goes to show, when you really are determined, there really isn't any mountain high enough to stop you. Seize the day, little man. Seize the day. And let go of my hair. I love you, Frosty.
Oh my God. I think it is the Frosty show. In fact, I demand weekly updates.
I wish it could be.
I think we should demand weekly updates. It's like
he's like the cutest animal on the planet, except for all the other unbelievably cute animals on the planet.
They're all the cutest animal on the planet.
Like, I cannot believe that somebody would eat him. Yeah. Like, people eat goats.
They eat goats.
They eat goats. I heard they eat chickens.
Oh, stop.
Can you imagine?
Next thing you'll be telling me they eat dogs.
What did you see that thing on Facebook? How to make a chicken salad?
Make a salad. Give it to the chicken.
Sometimes it just makes me hate people.
Oh, sweetheart, you're not allowed to say that. You're not supposed to say that because animal activists always get accused of, don't you hate people? Don't you hate everyone?
I know.
Why are you doing this?
You know, for most animal activists, it really isn't true. Animal activists, for me, it's true. I mean, I just loathe people.
Oh, stop it.
But for most animal
animal
activists are actually really, really fine people. And they're usually great human rights activists as well.
Well, it's not either or. It's not like care about animals or care about...
Well, that's what's so ridiculous.
I have a story, actually. I used to do these foie gras protests. and God, people hated us so much. We would just be standing there with this footage that we would wear on our shirt. Like there was this little TV thing that you would wear on your shirt of like,
oh right, I remember
ducks
that.
being force-fed, and don't you care about people? And there's a war going on. Why are you wasting your time with that? And then immediately when they say there's a war going on, those of us who weren't wearing the screen would like unzip our sweatshirts, and there was a no war T-shirt under it, and we're like, join us for the no war protest on Wednesday.
What are these people out doing? They're out like shopping, and they're yelling at you for not sticking up for peace activism.
Well, some of the best animal advocates I know are actually great social justice advocates within the human realm, and so it inspires me. I think that it's like a spoke on the same wheel. And animal activists, of course, run the gamut of the political spectrum too, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying that all are human rights advocates, but I think most really care about most issues, and yet they still constantly get the get a job.
Okay,
get a job.
That actually reminds me of another story.
So annoying.
Story day for me today. But at another protest I was doing on the Lower East Side, it was right when Obama was in the election the first time around, and someone came out of the restaurant. It was just a silent protest. They were all standing there with signs, just silently in a line for hours. And the manager comes out smoking a cigarette. He's so angry at us, and he's like, "Now veal I hate. Veal I very much dislike."
People say that
and
all
so
the time.
I said, "Well, we're actually doing an anti-veal protest on Mother's Day. You should join us." And he said,
"You're so snarky."
He said, "No, I have a job." And Gene Bauer was with us. He's the president of Farm Sanctuary, and he said, "She has a job too. She's a community organizer, just like Barack Obama."
He told him.
No fighting with that one. And the guy with the cigarette was like, I can't actually, every time I look like I'm holding a fake cigarette, you could tell I don't smoke because I'm like Lauren Bacall with my...
The thing that drives me crazy is that, I don't think that everybody has to go out there and be an animal activist. That's a choice. And I think it's great if people are being an activist for any worthy cause, and I think that's wonderful. But they're using it as an excuse not to be vegan. They're saying, "Oh, I don't have time to be vegan.
There's too much going on."
Yeah, there's too much going on. People are suffering. Children are suffering. Children are starving. I can't be worried about this, about animals. But it's missing the whole point. By me eating animals, it's not that you're not just sticking up for them. You're the problem. Well, you're the abuser. You're the one who's paying for these things. You can't just let yourself off the hook.
Yeah. I mean, you have to eat anyway.
So I just call everybody an animal abuser?
No, you didn't know. You are a little.
But I think it's an important point
today, though. You are definitely, your true colors are coming through a little bit. But
You mean the part where I said I hate everybody?
There was that. But you have
I don't actually hate everybody, just
most people.
But I'm
Honey, we have not gotten our contract renewal yet. You don't want to be saying this quite yet.
It'll be the Jasmine show.
Yeah, no, I will think it should be the Frosty the Goat show, personally.
In any way,
Snow Goat.
Even if people really don't care about animals at all, still almost everything you do to stick up for animals actually helps people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, so there's really no excuse at all. In the first place, going vegan, I mean, animal agriculture is one of the most just destructive things on the planet. The pollution, the habitat destruction, the climate change implications, and the fact that it uses up resources that could be used to, if everybody just ate plants instead of feeding a lot of the plants to animals and then feeding the animals to rich people, that if everybody just ate the plants, we'd have plenty of food to feed everybody. The UN's been saying that for years, so there's that fact.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we should have somebody on to talk about that who
Yeah, well,
really knows those, because it's such a facts and figures kind of thing. And then saving habitat itself, it's good for people, it's good for animals. Even on a micro level, we're going to have Jane Hoffman on later. She's going to be talking about domestic violence, how if you help people's pets in domestic violence situations, you help them.
That's actually a great point. I would really like to talk about that a little bit more, because we have this amazing museum that we know of, which is called the National Museum of Animals and Society. And they were started as mostly an online museum, but now they actually have a physical space. It's in Los Angeles, but they also are on tour a bit here and there. And there's this one exhibit of theirs that I want to discuss since you brought up.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
It's called My Dog is My Home.
Actually, it's about homeless people and about their relationship with their dogs. And that title, actually, of the exhibit, My Dog is My Home, it
gives you chills.
Yeah, it really
Absolutely.
does.
Well, homeless people a lot of times have pets as well, and when you are helping their pets, you are helping them.
And if you're helping them keep their pets, you're helping them, and it really keeps people sane. And I think we have a little The exhibit's extraordinary.
Yeah.
And it has a combination of video and audio files. And,
It's multimedia experience.
Yeah, and we have a couple of clips from the videos, I think.
There's one with Spirit. Let's start with this one with Spirit.
And his dogs, Kaya and Miniaga.
Take a look at this video.
My name is Spirit. I'm presently homeless. I'm living in an emergency shelter right now. The one thing that is important to me is the care and love of my animals, my babies. This is Miniaga. This is Kaya and Aze. They mean everything to me, and I mean everything to them. I was staying at home taking care of my father, but I was lonely. I decided to get a little bit of love by the name of Kaya. My father loved her at first, but as she became larger, she would always knock him down because she would always want to be hugged and jump on him. So if you don't get the dog out, you need to get out. So that was the time where I said, okay, I'll get out. And I slept in my car that night. I realized that my love for my animals was the primary source of my joy, and I felt that it was time toward change. I just one day got in my car and just started driving. I had to find an emergency shelter, living on a cot in the corner of the room with my animals. And a lot of people were scared of them, but once they saw the eyes, everybody melted. All these hardcore ex-cons, all these other people that were homeless that were thrown away from their families, they seemed to gravitate toward my animals. A young lady by the name of Sonia, she allowed me to stay at the shelter, and she made it very clear that we were all to be treated as guests in the shelter just like everyone else, and it meant so much to me. So I made it my best effort to make sure there'd be no problems.
You know, what I love about that video is it shows, I mean, not only how much he loves these dogs, but how other people love them too, and how they bring people out and they bring people together, that people who, you know, probably wouldn't be communicating with each other, and it gives them a topic, and I'm just so excited that facilities exist that allow people to bring their dogs.
Yeah, and that's something we'll talk about on the New York City level when Jane Hoffman joins us in a little while.
On domestic violence front, yeah.
Exactly. Well, there's another
I don't think
video.
there are homeless shelters. I'm not sure that there are homeless shelters in New York that allow people to bring their pets. I'm actually not sure of that. But yeah, there's another one about Myra.
Oh, I love this video.
Yeah, I love this video too.
This is really touching.
And it also really shows how much animals can mean to somebody who's in this situation.
Yeah, let's take a look at this video with Myra.
Right now, I'm retired from show business. I used to be a showgirl. I had a very good lifestyle. And, you know, I was one of the type of person that says that I'll never become homeless. And you can never say never. So here we are at Path, where I've been residing for the past year and trying to get a Section 8. My companion Prince is downstairs in the kennel. I remember one of my good friends, he had Prince. And Prince was this big. So tiny, with these big old ears and big paws. And I said, oh, he's such a cute doggy. And one day, he was trying to sell Prince for a $20 bag. And I got mad. I said, don't you sell that dog for no $20 bag of speed. And he said, but Myra, I need a fix. And I said, I'll give you $50 for the dog. He said, he's all yours. And picked him up and gave him to me. And I was like, stunned. And I looked at Prince and he laid down. And I remember getting on my knees and I vowed to him that moment on, I would never ever desert you like that man just did. And we have been inseparable ever since.
Wow,
I will never desert you.
I know. I mean, and you know that she won't. And what is she sacrificing in her life? Which is, you know, she's clearly in a bad way and really not bringing in income, and still she takes care of that dog with that devotion. It's really so moving. I mean, it's not to say that every homeless, I mean, I don't want to sound like naive. Not every homeless person takes great care of their pets. I mean, not every person with a home takes great care of their pets too, but you have to look at the individual situation, and I think you have to look at the title of this exhibit, My Dog is My Home. For so many of these people, their dog is their only connection to the world. I mean, it's really their anchor.
And that is abundantly clear in this 30-second audio clip we have of Connor with his pup Supermax.
Yeah, this is just a still photograph with an audio interview.
I was in Ben Lomond in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and he had been born the night before. I remember the next day I was all looking at him and I was like, That's a puppy. That's my son. I was like Supermax, rolled off the tongue, so that's how Supermax came about. So far as taking care of Supermax, it's kind of like, he's kind of a big deal. To me, at least.
He's a big deal. That's what I love that line. That piece moves me so much, just so much. And Connor and Supermax are both so special.
I know, that piece really gets me.
Yeah. Well, my dog is my home, just in general, the idea that, I think Christine Kim was the person who put this together. This My Dog is My Home from the Museum of Animals and Society. It's just incredible.
And I think it also goes into the fact that this is not some kind of new phenomenon that people without homes have animals. I mean, I think it's really important.
Right.
There are a lot of, there are pieces of art in the exhibit, and there are also a lot of historical photos going back and showing how people have always had these connections, especially people whose lives are really in kind of desperate straits. They've always had these connections to animals that have helped keep them centered, and they take care of these animals. Yeah. They're not careless with them. They're not just using them to get sympathy. That's just such wrong thinking on the part of so many people. And this exhibit is fascinating, and the way they've set it up online is really beautiful.
Yeah, so beautiful. And again, it's back to the individual stories. It's something we keep talking about over and over again. And as you said, too often folks assume that homeless people are unable to care for animals, when obviously each case should be judged individually. And the fact is that there are a lot of people, homeless or not, who don't care for their animals. And as a result, there are a lot of animals who end up in shelters. And our next guest, Jane Hoffman, is going to help us understand what the situation is regarding homeless animals here in New York City. Jane has been the president of the Mayor's Alliance for New York City's Animals since its inception in 2002. And the Mayor's Alliance, actually you're a founding member of the Mayor's Alliance too. It acts as a liaison between the government of the City of New York and the New York City animal care community. It is an animal coalition of rescue groups, and it has shelters too that have all joined together to reduce the killing of cats and dogs in New York City shelters. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a great organization, and they're making a lot of progress. Before Jane joins us, please take a look at this video, which will introduce you to her and to the work of the Alliance.
1,000 animals searching for forever homes as part of Maddie's Pet Adoption Days. That's next on All for Animals. Dozens of rescue organizations affiliated with the Mayor's Alliance for New York City's Animals took part in the biggest free adoption event in the country, with the Maddie's Fund putting up $4 million to pay the adoption fees.
They're doing it across the country. They're doing it in about 7 cities and 5 states. So without them, you know, these 5,000 animals nationwide they're trying to get adopted probably wouldn't be finding a home this weekend. With their, you know, stepping up and giving us the funds so that these groups can waive their adoption fees this weekend, that's making all the difference.
Now, speak to the critics who say, well, if somebody doesn't pay an adoption fee, they're not a good pet parent.
Well, there's been a lot of research done in the last couple of years, and that's in fact a myth. You know, these groups know these animals. They're trying to make the best match. They're trying to find the most qualified home. The research has proven that, you know, if an animal gets in a home and fulfills the adopter's expectations for the first week, they're probably there to stay. So, you know, we're not really that worried about that. These groups know these animals, they love these animals, and they wouldn't put them in harm's way.
Among the adoptables, Juno and her kittens, who were being videotaped for the Animal Planet show Too Cute. And while they are pretty cute, they've also got an amazing rescue story. See, it turns out Juno was found wandering around the streets of Brooklyn after Hurricane Sandy. A kind woman started feeding her, but quickly noticed that the cat's belly was growing. She was concerned and called Mayor's Alliance partner Brooklyn Bridge Animal Welfare Coalition, which got Juno off the street and soon discovered she was pregnant. Rescuer Ann Levin fostered Juno and picks up the drama from there.
Miss Juno was very sweet, and she fit right in our foster home. And one night we were downstairs in the cat room watching some TV, and she came out and she sat on my lap, started purring very loudly. Ended up and this was my birthday too. And she ended up giving birth on my lap and next to me.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Juno had 3 kittens of her own, including one, Paddington, who we discovered is quite the little handful. Must be so rewarding.
It's incredibly rewarding. It is, and it's the best time is when you see them go to a great home.
Yeah. And such amazing rescue stories like this one.
Oh yeah. And there are a million. There are a million of them. Everyone's special.
Don't worry, he's okay. Also joining the litter, a cutie named Kate.
She was an orphan from Animal Care and Control. She was brought over, and Blue, Winnie, and Paddington loved to play with her. They emulated her as much as they could. Animal Planet, in the meantime, had contacted us to see if we had any friendly mothers who would be willing to be filmed and interviewed over a period of, it's been about 12 weeks now. Animal Planet, while they're filming, one of the things they're focusing on is black cats. And they're looking at the superstition about how black cats, some people aren't interested in adopting. And so, you know, she's educating the public about how black cats are wonderful pets. And she's helped raise a number of kittens that are going to go and make people very happy.
And we're happy to report that Juno has also found a forever home. So, by the way, has Toby, the little trooper at the start of this video who was rescued by Linda's feral cat assistants. In all, the Mayor's Alliance reports more than 1,500 New York area animals found homes over the course of the weekend. For more information about either the Maddie's Fund or the Mayor's Alliance, visit the resources page at allforanimals.tv. And remember, if you're thinking about adopting a pet, please make yours the next great rescue story and head to a shelter near you. I'm Susan Richard. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on All for Animals.
That video is just a taste of what the Mayor's Alliance for New York City's Animals does. And today we are so honored to welcome the person behind the Mayor's Alliance. Welcome to our Hen House, Jane.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
We love Jane Hoffman.
I love all those animals. I want them all.
Uh-oh.
That was such a cute video. I'm sure there are more.
There are more. We can fix you right up with a couple of cats and dogs. I'll have them delivered in our Wheels of Hope transport program.
They're going to be there when we get home.
They will.
I have a feeling. But
They
Jane,
will.
describe what the Mayor's Alliance is.
Well, it's the largest, longest running, and I would say, since New York City is the center of the universe, most successful animal rescue coalition in the country.
Wow.
And it's not the mayor's office, it's not a city agency, it's a private not-for-profit, and we depend on private donations. And it basically has about 150 animal rescue groups and shelters that are working in concert in this coalition to help save cats and dogs in New York City.
So it's not a lot of work at all, just kind of easy sailing?
No problem.
No difficult characters that you're dealing with?
No. Everybody, we're all sitting around in Kumbaya, my Lord. Yes, exactly like that.
That's exactly what the animal rights community is.
It is completely.
Can you just go back a second? You said it's not a city agency, but it is called the Mayor's Alliance, but it does work with the city, is that right?
Yes, we were really founded when Bloomberg came into office with his administration. And we approached his administration, and as you know, as a member of the New York City Bar Animal Law Committee, the longest running, most important animal law committee in the country, we approached his administration with a memo that basically said, we have this idea to set up a public-private partnership. He loves public-private partnerships, that we would bring private money, Maddie's Fund, into the city to help solve the pet overpopulation problem in New York City. So we signed a memorandum of understanding, a non-financial contract with the city. So we have a close relationship, but it's more like, I always say, the President's Council on Physical Fitness. It's not really.
Right. So it continues even under Mayor de Blasio. It just has a great relationship with the administration.
Exactly.
Which is great, because the rescue scene in New York City has not always had the smoothest ride in working with government officials. But I would like to hear a little bit more about the coalition partners, because you were talking about them in that video. And they're pretty varied, right? What are some of your biggest members and some of your smaller members?
Well, we had about 5 founding members, and they range from the ASPCA,
That's a big one.
The Macy's, right? And then we go down to the, more bodega on the corner and the smaller shelters. Sean Casey Rescue here in Brooklyn is one of our premier groups. They have a wonderful adoption van. Well, they have 2 locations now.
Oh, that's right. They just opened a second one.
Yeah, so it's basically animal rescue groups and brick and mortar shelters. And the brick and mortar shelters tend to have staff, obviously, whereas the rescue groups, by and large, are all volunteers. These folks, they do it because it's their passion. They don't get paid for it. They work full-time jobs, which is why many of the programs of the Alliance are structured to help them, because they're basically 90% of the effort, these private rescue groups.
Totally. I mean, I think these people...
Yeah, like Brooklyn Animal, the 2 groups that were mentioned in the video are just private individuals just doing...
Just working from their hearts.
Exactly.
There's so many people like that who really devote their lives to helping companion animals.
Exactly.
And it's just great that the Alliance is there to help them.
Yeah, well,
where are we now vis-a-vis the dogs and cats in shelters, and are they still being killed in shelters? Can you just give us a snapshot?
Well, we are striving to be what's called a no-kill city. Good. We don't really label shelters or as kill versus no-kill because it's really not fair. I mean, it's the community. So Animal Care and Control of New York City, which is also a private not-for-profit, but they have the contract with the City of New York, actually is required to take every animal brought to their door. So when we set up the Alliance, it's centered on on helping them. And I can describe how we did that. But basically, working as a coalition, in 2003, we were killing or euthanizing 32 cats and dogs a year at Animal Care and Control, the only open admission shelter. By the end of last year, we had reduced that to just over 6,000.
Wow.
That's insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
That really is an amazing number. And can you just, you use the term, which I really like, killing or euthanizing. Can you define the difference between those 2 things? Because I think that they're often confused.
Yeah, I think that euthanizing an animal is often your only choice if they are either too injured or too ill for us to really be able to fix. Or, frankly, if they're so dangerous, it really would not be safe to put them out into, like a dog, into the population as an adoption. Though I have to say, because of the Alliance, many of those dogs who would not have been made available for public adoption go to the rescue groups because they have the ability to do some behavior modification, to do some training, to put them in foster homes.
And the injured ones as well.
Right.
Exactly.
There's a
and
little
the sick and
opportunity
injured.
to take care of them until they can be placed.
Exactly. So it's basically the New Hope department at at Animal Care and Control, which the Alliance funded and helped create, and now they've really taken in-house completely, is the sort of the marketing department of ACC to the rescue partners. And they send alerts every day, automatic emails go out asking for assistance with animals. And there are the animals, for the most part, that won't be made available to the public for adoption because they're ill, as you mentioned, or injured, or they need some behavior modification.
What should people do if they want to help get those numbers to 0?
We're never going to get them to 0. Just to go back to your point, killing is if you don't to control population. And Maddie's Fund mission was not to kill healthy or treatable cats and dogs, ones we could help. If you're killing them, for space, that's killing. If you're euthanizing them, good death, that's the difference as far as we're concerned. So we may never get to 0.
0 deaths, but hopefully 0 killing for overpopulation reasons.
Correct.
Just and because they have no homes to go to.
Exactly. And we're getting very, very close to that.
And what about people who see cats in their neighborhood? I know that this is a big issue, certainly here in Brooklyn. What can people do to help if they're seeing cats in their neighborhood?
I'm so glad you asked me that question.
Cats are bigger.
Cats, yes,
the bigger problem than dogs,
yes,
right?
Yes. Out of those 6,000 I mentioned, probably 4,000 were cats.
Wow.
Yeah. So Trap, Neuter, Return. We have a program at the Alliance called the Feral Cat Initiative, and we advocate for Trap, Neuter, Return, which means a cat is humanely trapped, neutered or spayed, vaccinated, left ear tip cut off, and then returned to the colony or space they came from, because they're there for a reason. Somebody is feeding them, somebody is hopefully taking care of them. And that stabilizes the population in that area. So what we really want is the people who are involved in programs like A Million Trees, planting trees throughout the city,
Right.
come and become TNR certified, even if you do 2 cats in your backyard. And we have just created with Alley Cat Allies and the ASPCA a brand new TNR and colony management course. They're going to be starting in July for the public, but we also have an online one because we've often had people from the Hasidic community actually in Brooklyn saying we really want to help, but these older ones from taught by a different organization are only available on Saturday. So we're going to be
yeah,
doing it during the evening and on Sundays.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll just, you're right, it's like the Million Trees.
Right.
We just have a million eyes looking at these cats.
And being trained and know how to do trap, neuter, return. And we're fortunate to have a lot of spay-neuter capacity in the city because of the Humane Society of New York and the ASPCA.
Now, in addition to providing these sort of global resources that all of these groups benefit from, are there financial resources available to these small groups that help them handle some of the costs? I mean, as you said, these are just people doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They probably don't raise the money that really finances everything. Are there financial resources that the Mayor's Alliance has been able to offer?
Yeah.
I know that Maddie's Fund was mentioned in the video.
Right, Maddie's Fund. We were very fortunate to have Maddie's Fund for 7 years, which basically pumped $12.2 million into New York City. That really was a flow through from us to the groups. So that was for adoption subsidies.
And that's a national organization.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
It's helping people do this all over the country.
Yeah, I think the video mentioned was about last year's event. We just had it again this year. We were fortunate enough to be included, and we adopted something in the range of 5,600.
Wow.
So I just want to switch gears for a minute because there's something I want to be sure to talk about, and that's something that we were talking about at the top of the show today, which is victims of domestic violence who have pets. Can you just explain to us, Jane, some of the work that's being done to help victims of domestic violence who have pets? Because I know a lot of times
this is definitely another area that Jane has been very active.
Sure.
Yeah, and I know a lot of times
important.
people won't leave a domestic violence situation because they're afraid for their animal. Where do you stand on all of this? And tell us about the work you're doing.
Well, we started a program called Helping Pets and People in Crisis in 2007 because actually someone through one of the breed rescue groups, Minpin, a woman who had a miniature pinscher and 2 small children, was fleeing her apartment to go to a shelter and was unable to bring the dog with her. And she was at great danger to herself going back to the apartment to feed and take care of the dog. And somehow or other she got to Minpin Rescue, who got to me, and I didn't have a program at that point, but I said, okay, we'll make this up, bring the dog to our vet, I'll figure out what to do. We found one of our foster homes who took the dog in, and 9 months later when the woman finally, that's how long it takes, even with children, to get an apartment in New York City. They had done an interview with the dog, with the landlord, but this wonderful foster let them come every Sunday, Saturday, weekend, get the dog, go to the park, dress up the dog, feed the dog too many hot dogs, came home, had diarrhea. And the woman, the mother, at the end said it was the only thing that kept her children centered and able to go through this because they got to see their dog and they knew they would get their dog back. So to me, the message to social service agencies was, even if you don't care about animals, you should care about your clients and what they need to help them going. So out of this program, we started working with a wonderful organization called Urban Resource Institute, which is one of the largest providers of private domestic violence shelters. And they have started PALS, which is their domestic violence. And one of their shelters started with cats and small dogs, and we helped them set that up. And as a couple of months ago, they started to take dogs. And they got a grant from one of the big food companies, dog food companies, to do a dog run in the back because those women and their children cannot go out and walk their animals on the street, their dogs.
They're getting a little verklempt. I think this is so magnificent.
Yeah, but Urban Resource Institute is wonderful. They need donations as well to keep this program going. They're trying to expand it, because those shelters, people stay for 6 months and then they need to move into other housing called level 2 or something. They're trying to expand that throughout the system. And
so each level of housing, they have to find someone who will take their pets.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think that people don't realize how important it is because people do really stay in the home because they're fearful for the pets, and they're justifiably fearful for the pets.
Absolutely.
I mean, one of the tools of abuse is to abuse a child or an animal.
And the law takes it seriously enough that there's, as you know, about a decade ago now, you can put pets on orders of protection now. That's how serious they realize that is. I think it's some ridiculous number, like 75% of people with pets will not leave the home if they have to abandon the pet in the home.
Amazing, wow. Yeah. Well, switching gears again, I want to talk about the New York City Animal Law Committee at the American Bar Association. I know
the New York City Bar Association.
The New York City Bar Association Animal Law Committee.
Good.
Yeah,
good, sweetie.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
Marianne,
let one of the lawyers.
Yeah, okay. I'm like in a lawyer sandwich right now. Marianne, you were the chair of this committee once.
I was the chair. Jane is one of the founding members.
Yes, you are.
Long before I was involved.
And tell us about what this committee is.
And Jane has also been the chair, of course.
I mean, you have such fascinating programs. It's not only just for lawyers. So tell us about what this program is.
Well, we just did a fascinating program, an evening program on, and I'm going to mispronounce this, caporos. It's the
No,
chicken.
I don't think you did.
I did.
Oh, it's horrible.
Well, anyway, we just did an evening program. But the Bar Association is a bunch of lawyers who are interested in animal law, and they range from people who work in corporate law to private practice to having nothing to do, but they are lawyers. They belong to the association, and they have joined this committee to work on comments and reports on legislation, animal-related legislation. We put on evening programs, and it's a wonderful place to hook up with other lawyers who are interested. And it's wonderful because, you know, the law touches everything in the United States, and you can have an expertise in estates and trusts. You can have litigation experience. You can have landlord-tenant experience. Criminal law, everything is useful. So all these folks get together, and it's just a really great brain trust for the
Yeah, I have to
animals.
say that committee was what really started me in becoming interested in animal issues. And it was just because not very many lawyers are trained in animal law, but if you have an interest, you can definitely be working with this committee and find a way to learn about the issues and be useful. Bar association committees are really a wonderful thing.
Well, you know, and we had worked on a thing that I, of course, had to go out and do at UCLA on the importance of bar associations and the development of animal law. And the committees are really, once the New York City bar started, and I think, you know, because it's a very prestigious bar, it was really hard to make an argument in another bar association that they should not also allow the formations of these committees.
So we talked about what was going on in the city with the no-kill movement, and can you just talk a little bit about what's going on with the rest of the country in terms of, you know, protecting our four-footeds?
Family members. Well, the Maddie's Fund has really pumped an enormous amount of money into various parts, like the entire state of Vermont took part in the last Maddie's Fund event. So there's a lot of really good stuff happening. The ASPCA has gone out to Los Angeles to increase spay-neuter. They're working in a lot of different communities. So between the ASPCA and putting their resources in communities across the country and Maddie's Fund, you know, we've made a lot of progress.
Yeah, it sounds like New York City is really paving the way for change throughout the country.
I mean, I think that what you said too, like we have to remember that spay and neuter is it's kind of the ugly little sister of adoption. Adoption makes for beautiful videos, but if we don't increase the spay and neuter, we're really never
If you
going
don't
to
turn
solve
off
this problem.
the spigot, the sink is just going to continue to overflow.
Well, you're doing so much, Jane. You're doing so much within this world and also within farm animal world, because I know you're also on the board of Farm Sanctuary, and you've really devoted your life to changing the world for animals. And we're so grateful to you for all that you do. We admire you and your organization so much. And thank you so much for joining us today, Jane.
My pleasure.
Amazing.
Really amazing.
And our second guest today is also amazing. She's one of our favorite people on the planet. Gena Hamshaw is one of the truly sane voices on healthy eating. She writes about what's delicious, what's healthy, what's kind to animals, and what you should be making for dinner on her hugely popular blog, Choosing Raw, which you can find at choosingraw.com. Jenna's new book boils, or maybe that's the wrong word, all of that info into one amazingly wonderful resource. Did you get my joke there?
Yeah, I got it.
Thank you, because it was a stretch.
Boils down all that
but
information
not because
into
it's
one
raw.
wonderful resource, but it's raw.
It's raw, so it
Good
doesn't
job,
boil anything.
We were with you.
Thank you.
We got it. We're with you.
Moving on.
The moment has passed.
It has.
But
I don't know if the moment ever begun.
But first, before Jenna joins us, take a look at this 12-second video, which I don't know why we're showing this video, but it makes me laugh every single time I watch it. It shows a very determined turkey with more than just a little stage presence.
I love this video.
This video is crazy.
It's... Hi. Oh, look. Oh!
That is one of the most adorable turkeys I've ever seen.
Every time I see that video, I laugh.
We keep watching it and just laughing. Special thanks to Gary Smith for making that and sharing it with us.
Yeah, I think that was his voice you heard at the end.
Yeah. I'm very excited about our second guest today, Gena Hamshaw, whose brand new book, Choosing Raw, Making Raw Foods Part of the Way You Eat, is making people of all dietary persuasions rethink their vegetable intake. Welcome to our Hen House, Jenna.
Thank you, Jasmine. It's wonderful to be here.
It's so wonderful to be here. I love you, especially because you brought us food and it looks so magnificent.
But I'm excited. This really looks like it's going to be a meal.
Yeah, it's. I think that we should definitely move on because I need some cilantro. I always feel bad for people who have that cilantro thing, don't you?
Yeah, except I think I have it because cilantro definitely tastes like soap to me, but I still like it.
You're
weird?
like the weird crossover.
Yeah, I'm like a strange hybrid. And I like the taste of soap, apparently, which is super
very odd.
Strange. Maybe that goes back to some childhood memory. I don't know.
Yeah. What's the story on the raw thing?
In what way? You have a brand new book out, Choosing Raw, which is based on your very popular blog, Choosing Raw. So is everything that you do raw?
No.
Not at all, right?
No, it's funny because I get asked about the name of my blog and my book a lot, and when I started my blog, I was never a 100% raw foodist, and I'm still not. I'm less of a raw foodist than I was when I started blogging. But to me, it was never choosing a 100% raw lifestyle. That wasn't what I meant to suggest.
And that wouldn't be a good name for a blog, by the way.
That would be a
choosing
terrible
a
name.
non-100% raw lifestyle.
Yeah, that was never the goal. No, the title of my blog was always meant to suggest that I think when people get curious about raw food, there's a lot of pressure out there, both overt and implied, that the sort of ultimate goal is to go raw, 100% completely raw. And everyone sort of pretends to be really supportive. They're like, transition at a pace that works for you, you don't have to be all raw, but they kind of are telling you that it's ultimately better to be raw. And I never actually believed that was necessarily true. I think it's just the important thing is to eat whole, healthy, nutritious plant foods. But what I kind of wanted to tell people was that you can opt in to eating raw food. It can be a simple choice to make a smoothie in the morning or a salad at lunch, or a raw entree at dinner, but you can also, have a salad for lunch and then lasagna at night.
Live on the edge.
Can
you define what people mean by raw? What separates a cooked food from a raw food?
Well, so there are a couple of different responses to that. I mean, I think the sort of classic definition of raw food is that it has not been heated over a certain temperature, and some raw food is considered 105 degrees, and some consider it 117, and some consider it 115, and I have no idea how anyone could have measured that down to such a precise science. But the idea behind all of this is that there are enzymes in our food, and that when we heat our food, it denatures these enzymes. And some raw foodists believe that those enzymes would, because they would be alive in our food, we wouldn't need to produce as many enzymes to digest them, and that would save our bodies stress and energy. The theory, in my opinion, and I think the research supports this, is actually it doesn't hold much water because live enzymes get digested and denatured by our stomach acid like any other protein as soon as we eat them. So they're not going on to do all sorts of beneficial things in our bodies.
But we should be eating plants, lots and lots of plants.
It's great. And I will say, there are some vitamins, especially water-soluble vitamins, that we retain much more of them when we don't cook them. So vitamin C, for example, a huge amount of it is lost in the cooking process. And it's for that reason, I think it's a smart idea to just eat a combination of raw and cooked food. But what I think is interesting is that a lot of us would never really eat much raw food aside from the occasional cup of gazpacho or salad, if we didn't have a little instruction. And I certainly started getting much more creative with my vegetables and eating more raw vegetables when I fell in love with raw cuisine. And I think it really expanded my options.
Well, that's evident from your book, Choosing Raw, which is brand new, Mazel Tov. It's very exciting. And
it's a beautiful book.
I know that we have a lot more questions for you, but I can't get over this smell of food in the studio. So I want to know what you're going to be making for us today.
So I was trying to think of something that would be summery and easy and simple. I like to think of my food as being pretty accessible. A lot of raw food isn't.
I know some of those recipes. They have so many ingredients, and then you realize that half of the ingredients you have to make on another page of the cookbook.
Yes.
So
the first raw cookbook I bought had one recipe that between soaking, sprouting, and dehydrating, it would take 2.5 days to make the recipe, and I was freaking out. I was like, whoa! I mean, and I was a new cook at the time. I could barely make pasta. Anyway, so what I'm doing,
the word raw kind of implies it's going to be easy.
Yeah,
raw.
I think it should be. Yeah, I agree.
An apple.
I agree. And I think that actually that can be the beauty of raw food. Especially at this time of year when the idea of simmering or baking something is really unappealing in the heat. So what I'm doing today is a zucchini noodle dish.
Oh,
One of the
wow.
sort of standard, I like to think of raw food preparation more in terms of techniques than in recipes. And one of the techniques that I really love is to create pasta with raw vegetables. And you can do that in a couple of different ways, but I like to do it with this handy little tool that is a Julienne peeler. And I'll show you how it works right now, if that's helpful.
Yeah, of course.
So you can make zucchini pasta with a device called a spiralizer.
I have a spiralizer. We've used it once.
Once?
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I feel like you guys would be really into zucchini
We're
pasta.
very into our kitchen appliances, but I think that sometimes we just...
like it got put up on the top shelf. We have
and
to
then
get
it just
down.
never
You know,
came
we're-
back
we're-
down.
I'm making a commitment. We're getting the spiralizer down and we're going to use it.
We need a ladder.
It's zucchini season.
Yes. Well, so here's...
But this is so much
Here's the joy of a Julienne
easier.
peeler.
Oh, yeah.
It makes zucchini
I bet it
noodles
costs a
anyway,
lot less,
and it
too.
costs $6.95, as opposed to a spiralizer, which can run for like...
Can I see?
You know, a nice spiralizer can be in the hundreds of dollars.
Oh, ours
Mine
isn't
was
a nice
not,
spiralizer.
but...
They're little noodly guys.
But they're little
adorable.
noodles, and they're really easy to make. You just do this, and you can use this little tool, by the
gonna
way,
eat it.
for... Yes, you should.
I'm good now. No?
You should.
Yeah.
Zucchini's great. This tool can be used for garnish on
Look,
other
so
vegetable dishes
So it just
too.
comes out like that. It's called a Julienne.
It's called a Julienne peeler or
Peeler.
Julienne slicer.
I
They're
love
really
it.
awesome.
And it's like little pasta guys.
And it's just like little pasta.
This is what we're making, right? This
I'm going to
zucchini-
start plating the zucchini part of this.
So it's zucchini with
Garlic.
mango, avocado, and black bean salsa.
Yeah.
that sounds damn
So
good.
the idea here is that you create this sort of zucchini pasta first, and you just slice it like I'm doing right now, and then you divide it onto 4 plates. I might not make enough for 4 right now, but you would essentially use all of these zucchinis and make enough for 4 people. And then I basically just make this quick little salsa of mango, avocado, black beans, cilantro, salt, pepper, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of agave. And that's it. I mix it together and I just pile it on top of the plate and garnish it with cilantro. And it's
It
really
already looks
easy.
beautiful.
And it is an easy thing. I mean, what you're describing is basically like just a few ingredients, not a 2.5-day process.
Most of my recipes are like mush up an avocado with something and then eat it. Like that's
Jenna, how do you,
the vast majority
I'm
of
so
my
down with
food.
that.
How do you
works
strike-
exactly
You
like
mush up an
that.
avocado and it's almost always good.
how do you strike a balance between healthy and delicious?
I think when I'm cooking, delicious comes first. But I don't think that those things are mutually exclusive. And I think that, you know, there's certainly a spectrum. I think it's important that we all eat our chocolate cake and we all eat our indulgences and we all eat our sort of fried oyster mushroom calamari or like whatever fun finger foods we're into. But I think when I cook at home, I try to be, you know, the everyday, the 80% of the time, as opposed to the 20% of the time where we're just eating for pure pleasure.
Yeah.
I try to make healthful food, but the truth is, healthy food, it tastes so good. And I think that's another thing I really like about raw recipes. I think they show off how good things can taste with just a few ingredients, all fruits and vegetables, basically, and, you know, a little bit of seasoning. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about raw cuisine. It really is a nice way to showcase how satisfying vegetables can be.
I want to.
You know, when you think of the vegetables that were around when I was growing up, they were
Iceberg
it was-
lettuce?
Well, that was if you were going raw, but the cooked ones, they were like so overcooked. It's like people did not. We did not learn how to cook vegetables.
No, I know.
Mine was like a can of creamed corn.
Well, that sounds good.
Your corn is delicious. Let's not pretend.
But while you're making this, I do have a few other questions for you. One of my
Ask me anything.
favorite parts of your book and of your advocacy in general, Jenna, is that you are vegan not only for health, though you came into it through health, but you care deeply and passionately about the animals.
I do.
And you actually have an entire chapter in this that's all about beyond just the food and into the ethical reasons. And I read it the other day. I was very moved by it. And I love that you said that you used to steer far, far away from talking about the ethical reasons behind the way you ate.
I did.
And you were like, I don't want to talk about it.
I think that's very common among a lot of health vegans, that they just won't even go near the and you'd think that it would just be one of the added wonderful benefits.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, it was funny because the reason I made such a point of that is because I realized only in retrospect, it's not just that I didn't identify as an ethical vegan, I was like very uncomfortable with anything to do with it. And I think that was partly just I kind of knew it was the right thing to do, but I wasn't yet ready to commit to that as my motive.
It is a commitment.
And it is a
once
commitment.
you
Absolutely.
recognize it as an ethical issue,
yes,
it becomes a commitment. You can't
well,
really
let's
go
talk
back.
about that. So what changed?
I visited a farm sanctuary. I was volunteering at the Thanksgiving event at the Woodstock Farm Animal Sanctuary, and the director of the farm, Jenny Brown, was giving a speech, and she at some point made a quip along the lines of, you know, this is about the animals. It's not just about having a perfect bowel movement. And I was, which
and
I
you
thought
were like,
was
oh,
hilarious.
I blogged about that today.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, as someone who had gotten into this exclusively for digestive health, I was thinking, you know, and it was, I grew up in Manhattan. I had never spent any time around farm animals. I had very little real life connection to them. And those 2 days were really the first 2 days where I had kind of observed animals in an unfettered natural environment, especially farm animals, like instead of, you know, companion animals. And it had just had a really big impact on me. And I had eaten all this great food, and I was just thinking, you know, I think it can be like this.
Yeah.
I think that we can respect our animal neighbors and also live really abundantly and well, and that those two things aren't a trade-off. And I think that's how I want to live my life.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you're living your life that way. How are we doing with the recipe here?
We're doing well. So I'm going to tell you what I put in here. This is about 2 small
It already looks so beautiful.
mangoes,
Yeah, it does.
2 avocados. These were enormous avocados, so I actually only used 1.5. It's about a cup of black beans, and I am about to mix in some seasoning. So I'm going to do a little bit of agave.
Gotta love some agave.
Love agave, just a teaspoon.
Bring it up.
Yep. Some salt and pepper, which is, of course, to taste. I like salty food, so
Yeah, I do too.
I kind of
I
have
do
to force
too.
myself to be
We
moderate.
actually had 3 different kinds of salt the other day when we were eating dinner. I brought everything to the table, and I was like, that kind of salt, that kind of salt, and that
Yeah,
kind
but
of
you've been
salt.
getting these gourmet salts, and it's giving you the illusion that it's not
Yeah, I was just
actually
gonna say, you're
salt.
probably
It's
getting, like-
you're gonna get high blood pressure.
Yeah, well,
oh, but it's gourmet.
it's
salt.
gourmet.
It's
That's
Himalayan
fine.
sea salt.
Exactly, it's from the
Oh, I love
Himalayas.
that stuff.
See?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Gena Hamshaw says it's okay.
So therefore,
Yeah.
if I say it's okay, then
Yeah,
it's got to be fine.
exactly.
And I've got some olive oil here. You don't need a lot for this recipe because it's got all the avocado.
So a lot of people are,
in it, but I
anti-oil.
do
I
a little
take
oil.
it you like a little oil.
I'm like pro oil. I am on
I like
team
to
oil.
slather it on my
yeah,
body.
basically, I want to drink it. No, I think oil's great, and I think that it makes perfect sense to not consume it if you're trying to lose weight.
Totally.
Because it's a very calorie-dense food. I think I'm totally on board with that. I think that that's not the same as saying that it's unhealthy, and I don't think the evidence shows that it is. It's, you know, it's associated with lower inflammation. Diets that include moderate use of olive oil have been shown to be great for heart health.
And great for tastiness.
And great for tastiness. And I was just going to say, the beauty of oil, too, is that you don't actually need a lot. I mean, of course, in restaurants and stuff, they do glug it over the food and they use a ton. But to make something taste great, just a teaspoon or a tablespoon of olive oil can be the difference between a dish that tastes really bland and a dish that's delicious. And I think, again, I'm always thinking about outreach when I cook. I'm always thinking about making things really delicious, especially if I'm feeding non-vegans. And so to me, olive oil is like a clear win. If it's going to make my food just a tiny bit better, and I don't have to use a lot of it to get there, it's a non-issue. I'm going to add lime juice now,
So you're
too.
adding lime juice to this, would you call this like your little kind of saucy guy? Is that the official
we'll call
term?
it my saucy guy. Definitely.
That's the official gourmet term. I think that's
Saucy
French.
guy, yeah.
That's the culinary term.
That's right. Okay, and then what happens?
And then at the end, we plate this over the zucchini
Now, this
pasta.
may sound like a ridiculous question for a cookbook author, Jenna, but do you
Try
ever
me.
do you ever feel that people either take food too seriously or not seriously enough?
Yeah,
Which
definitely.
one?
I think it's probably just like the health question. I think you can take health too seriously and also be negligent. I think, you know, when it comes to food culture, there are people who are foodies who are just so incredibly serious about everything. Like I walked through Italy
tedious.
at some point this week, and it was just like people having these really, really intense conversations about like a certain kind of imported farfalle, and I was like, you know, I don't know that I ever want to get that obsessed with my ingredients and my preparation methods.
I mean,
you
if
know,
people
like,
find it interesting, fine.
it's fine. It's sort of like a hobby, you know.
Yeah.
But I think there is also such a thing about as just not being in touch with food and cooking.
Yeah.
And I'm someone who learned to cook in my mid-20s. I didn't grow up cooking. I had really no experience with it. My whole culinary life has been recent. And I've gotten a lot out of it in the sense that I feel much more connected to my diet and my health through cooking. So I think it's an important thing to cultivate.
I am hungry, Jenna.
Okay.
When do I get to try
You get to
these
try it
things?
right now because I
this
just
is
finished
like-
mixing.
This is like dangling a carrot in
I
front of a
know.
rabbit.
It's like all this delicious creamy avocado right in front of your face.
It's like torture.
It's like all my favorite ingredients.
All right.
I love mangoes.
All right.
I love
Bring it
avocados.
on.
Let's do this. So
Bring it on. The
use
hands
the
wanna
dirty
eat.
fingers. I'm going to.
Oh, we have forks.
Do this.
Wow, we're so
okay. So you're plating it
elegant.
on top of this.
Yeah,
looks
and
so
this is how I would serve it at home. I would just.
And it's so
I would
easy.
do this. Yeah, and it's a great lunch dish, by the way, especially for summer when you don't want to come home and make anything on your lunch break or have anything complicated.
Yeah, I'm not into complicated.
And I can make another plate too.
No, we
can
share.
Are you sure?
We love each other.
That's true.
This looks good.
It might start a fight though.
Yeah, actually, you're taking too big of a bite.
Get out of my way.
And add salt if you want. I don't know if I added enough.
It was so good.
The lime juice actually kind of makes it a little salty somehow.
Yeah.
This is phenomenal.
Yeah.
This is
Well, sour definitely substitutes for salt.
Yeah.
I agree. I think acid is very underrated in cooking. Like everyone talks about seasoning your food with salt and pepper and herbs, and that's all completely true. But to me, if a recipe doesn't have some lemon or vinegar, it's totally useless.
I hope that in addition to getting your book, Choosing Raw, people check out your blog, Choosing Raw, because it's very easy to navigate through it. I have found many amazing dessert dishes, which is my fabulous, little hobby, is making desserts and eating desserts. No, of course not.
I mean, it's not just recipes either. I love
Musings.
Jenna's thoughts on food.
Lots of thoughts
and on life.
food. And very honest and open, and you create a really beautiful forum there. And this is such a wonderful next step for you and for your readers and your followers. And again, the fact that you bring the animal issues into this is so important. And I just adore everything about you, even your dirty hands.
I was just going to say, even my slimy mango
Even
hands.
your slimy mango hands. I find it a little bit sexy, I'll admit.
What's going on here?
Nothing at all. At all. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us in our hen house. And thank you, Jenna, for joining us today.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me here and letting me cook.
I'm going to eat those.
Or uncook.
Yeah, I think you actually have to do the outro while I eat this. Ha! Ha! Do the outro. I'll eat.
Unfair.
No, I know. Go on.
That is it from us hens today. That is it. Thank you so much for joining us here at our Hen House. Remember, you can find our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and on the Our Hen House online magazine, which you can find at ourhenhouse.org. We look forward to seeing you in a brand new show next week.
So good. So good. I love it.
Our hen house is a squawking house. Our hen house is their hen house. Our hen house. Ooh, it's a funky fresh house. Our hen house is your hen house.